making speech an absolutely legendary mechanic, even perhaps in a system that doesn't support it very well, maybe has not enough options? Well, we can do it. Welcome, friends and adventurers. I'm M, and welcome to the DM table. This is today's subject, and we will succeed to make it one of the best things that your players have ever witnessed in a role-playing campaign. So, how do we do it? Well, imagine having the following example. Your party of adventurers is fighting a boss, and this is a really relevant character for the campaign that has lots to say, lots to show to the players in the way of logic and reason. And, well, the boss gives a speech, and this is not one of those wait for it monologues, no. This is as they exchange blows in combat. The boss gives a monologue as they fight back and forth, and now players that the boss was trying to demoralize with the speech, they think about it and imagine that one of your players has a great idea how to answer this, how to overturn the boss's logic, and the player does even roleplay it out. What you do is give players the whole party a bonus because they have overturned the attempt and they now feel even better. They feel triumphant already. The combat goes a bit more in their favor now, and the wave of combat is definitely overturned. So, this is a great example of how initially you may use speech mechanics to get your players to feel like it's important, but this goes way beyond these initial stages. Imagine instead if the boss does a good job and the party starts to think about it and waver, sort of follow the boss's logic and start to maybe accept that maybe it would be interesting working with the boss and that maybe, their side wasn't all that true and so on. Now, what's interesting here is that you can start giving them a small debuff, which simulates that they are wavering, and you can have the boss go, "Look at yourselves, you don't even believe in what you're fighting for. I can see you wavering. Maybe you should stop this nonsense and join me." So, it's not about the strength of the debuff or punishing the players, no, not at all. This actually will enhance the role-playing, as the players will now feel that it is a bridge to be crossed. Maybe they'll not so easily waver and not so easily join enemies in the future, or maybe they will actually do it and feel like this was character development for them, and that they actually felt as they were changing their mind in the middle of the combat. So don't give them big minuses, just give them a feeling for it, and then depending on how they go, it may actually turn out to be pointless to fight if they don't believe in what they're fighting for. And on the other hand, even if they get minor debuffs, and then they think up how to defend themselves from the boss's rhetoric, then they can shake them off and get buffs instead, and the boss can get debuffs, and maybe boss even has attacks that depend on boss's morale level. So this can even stagger the boss for a round or something, giving the party opportunity to fight them off, and so on and so forth. So speech can be used in many, many such ways, and not just in combat, but in who would have guessed actual speech. You can have stages of success, where depending on how many segments of the conversation were won by one side or the other, there can be effects. There can be discoveries and questions being posed from within the whole conversation. You, as the dungeon master, can actually explain what new views open up and what additional possibilities also open up and which ones close. As players make successes, and so do opponents, then these successes or failures create new stages and such on which the speech is taking place, as if a struggle. Those have different conditions depending on which stage they have reached, and this is how you can have quick and yet detailed speech that works really deeply for almost any system. And rolling can be used every time it's necessary, or in some situations can be omitted depending on the strength of the argument, because why roll if it's a success, right? You don't roll unless it's something that's uncertain, right? That was always so, even in D&D. So if something is certainly a success or certainly a failure, you don't have to roll for it. On the other hand, if something is close, you might roll for it. Also, you may get to organize the whole round under one opposed roll from both sides, so as to achieve this quick but dramatic sort of exchange. And so, as we have the speech have effect on the world much more so than a 0 or 1 condition that can be either broken or useless, we have much more to work with as long as we give our players and all their opponents and even not opponents, all people that surround them, we give possibility for those partial results, temporary results, back and forths. Because you see, when you have a partial result, you can have, as I said, certain parts of the stage change. When you have temporary results, you can achieve something for a round, but it's not necessarily as broken as achieving it permanently. And the opponent can return back into the fight, thinking up new logic to try to counter your previous logic where you have defeated them for a round. This creates for a much more interesting field than just giving a finalized conclusion, which can happen, but after an exchange, like normal combat. This also creates those possibilities where not everything goes completely one way or the other, and they still progress the quest, because you don't have to mind control somebody perfectly like a puppet to achieve everything you wanted socially, and there's many stages before that that are completely fine and wonderful, and this last stage that people somehow always mention in D&D is unnecessary in most cases. So we can play throughout all those stages before it. But one's speech is even more than that. It stems from internal wisdom and logic of the person and their beliefs. So what you can also achieve is to always ask the players in critical moments what do they think, and to tell them when this is a check and when it is not. And then even if players won't say things out loud, they can form logic, they can form a speech or even just an idea that will defend them from things, that will give them advantage in other things, that will make them more prepared for other things, because they don't have to say it out loud whatsoever to shake off the opponent's attack with their rhetoric. And they can also share between themselves what do they feel together as a party, what connects them in their ideas. What do they all think together? This can all turn into a wonderful moment, and they can all sort of hear it and feel it amongst each other, even if the opponents won't necessarily know what they were thinking. Maybe they'll just see the effects from the outside. Maybe they'll guess what the power of friendship has brought to the table this time yet again. But it's not necessary. Internal monologues and even sort of internal dialogues are quite allowed. And once your players get to enjoy so much this new speech and start using it around on people they like to achieve better dialogues, then give them even better rewards. Maybe they get to give support to a friend to do something that they before didn't have the courage to do. Maybe a crafting NPC that they really spend a lot of time with makes something better than ever before, with their name on it. Maybe they get deeper into a relationship with somebody. Maybe they get some present. But it's not mostly about physical rewards. It's then where your characters can shine and return the same level of speech and dedication, emotion, and action that the players have given them. So if a player does something really wonderful towards a character you're running, then that character can be just as complex, just as deep, to do the same but original approach to sort of mirror in their own way such lavish attention upon the player. And even if two party members, two players are talking to each other and do similar thing, you can still spice it up. When they're talking about strategy, you can give them better insight. You can open up new fields of discussion that they started when they get successes between each other. If they're talking about character development, you can give them encouragement and tell them where they feel more better, how they feel stronger, where they can try to do something better. Maybe give them ideas that they missed earlier, but now they are rallying for. And if they encourage each other, give them bonuses, then they get to the spot that they were encouraging each other for. This can even have days worth of events ahead of time that will give buffs eventually. So it's not as linear as say good stuff, get a buff. It's much more like the indeed flow of life, depending on their social activities. They get to enjoy the benefits of everything they have done well. You can even remind them and tell them how they remember when they had that good speech. As long as you figure out that they liked it, you can remind them of their thoughts, of their memories, of what they shared, what they did, and who they supported, so that it all comes back later. And most of the times, pretty quickly, because you want to use this often. It's only sometimes where this happens after a long while and somewhat unexpectedly. Well, not just rarely sometimes, but you get the picture. Use this in all possible and probable situations, as long as you're careful that you don't spam rolls or, well, spam checks. You just want to organize into opportunity for speech from both sides to exchange with each other, and then, roll when needed, and make sure to keep all the bonuses mentioned when they happen, even when there weren't no rolls, as long as it was really great role-playing. And players will have time of their lives having speech as something extremely relevant and extremely worth doing, as it would be in any great story that you would see otherwise outside the role-playing. But role-playing should have been the best at this from the get-go, and it wasn't in most systems. So now you can make it be. And so, friends and adventurers, if you thought this was unique, maybe you can spare me a click and I could see you here next, and perhaps every week. I wish you luck on your adventures, and to see you again soon. Also, I would love to hear you in the comments so that I can answer all your questions and talk to you, and I would really love it. So if you have anything, do tell. Until next time, bye.